Yeah, go ahead, Noodle. I want to get some levels.
One of the difficulties with substance use is it masks a lot of the symptoms of underlying illness, especially with having an illness like borderline personality disorder. And you know, I can remember being as young as 7 years old and having suicidal ideation. You know, one of the most difficult things in the world is just to be alone, stuck in a room, alone with my own thoughts, you know. Drugs and alcohol numbed that, suppressed it, made it bearable to be me. It let the trauma solidify in me, you know, really root itself more than it needed to. Looking back at it in hindsight, you know, it's some pretty obvious telltale symptoms with our understanding of things today, that I was dealing with some serious issues from a young age. And I was put through, you know, the gifted kids program, doing advanced placement courses, going down to the high school, you know, to do courses before I was out of middle school, and then I got to high school and there was nothing. You know, they just let us go, and there was nothing stimulating me. So yeah, I found my own. I started experimenting with hallucinogens and started drinking. I loved rock and roll, so I wanted to be like them, and it just became you know, my go-to escape from all the things that I didn't even understand, you know, that I was experiencing. That just slowly permeated into every aspect of my life, but it definitely came from a place of not being able to connect and integrate into the world around me. I took the sex, drugs, and rock and roll approach to things when I was younger. I don't know, I was always drunk on stage and probably played like shit a lot, but there's a moment that you, in sobriety, I really tap into, where it feels like that's where the veil kind of drops, that wall between myself and the world that always seems to be a barrier with connecting with people, you know, really getting out how I feel, trying to figure out a way to translate my experiences and my emotions, and just the mess that my brain is all the time. You know, there wasn't any part of my life that wasn't tied to my drinking, and any part that wasn't, I'd cut out slowly over time, as addicts want to do when something threatens our addiction. So for me, I didn't have the immediate support network that I would have needed. So I was really lucky to have a couple friends who'd been through similar experiences come and grab me and give me a place to stay for a while. And that gave me the strength to come back, and it's been surprising. Some of the people that I didn't expect to be supportive are the most supportive, and some of the people I expected to be supportive are gone. I got so drunk one night that I tried to hang myself. And I did hang myself, but I tied the extension cord to a piece of the garage door that wasn't strong enough to hold my weight. And I opened my eyes laying on the floor and realized I was so pathetically drunk I couldn't even do that right. So I came upstairs and asked someone to drive me to the hospital. I'd had enough. I figured if I was stuck here, you know, I might as well do something about it.
That I'm feeling, I've dealt out in kind. I've got blood on my heart, and it ain't mine.
By the time I realized, really fully accepted what was happening to me, you know, it felt like my brakes had been cut. You know, it's like I've been in the back seat of the car watching somebody else drive for weeks and weeks and months even, and then when I finally had my wake up, you know, my partner, well, I begged her to stay and help me get sober, and she just said no, and I figured if I was gonna go off the road, I might as well do it as hard as I can, you know, hit that accelerator and make it count and go out with a bang, and that's what I did. And when I finally hit that wall, I failed. It's funny, it changes things when you talk about it to people. They can know I'm an alcoholic, they can know I was struggling, they can know I'm in recovery, and I can allude to how tough it is, and they'll acknowledge how tough it is, but the moment you cross that line into suicide, they bottle up, you know. It's almost like it's supposed to be a dirty little secret. It might make some people uncomfortable, but if it makes you uncomfortable to hear about it, imagine how comfortable it is to experience it. And if, you know, it helps one person feel like they're not alone, or it helps 100 people realize that it's more common and more normal, then, you know, we like to admit we've always been kind of the closeted issue in society, you know, and nobody wants to admit that anyone could be an addict and anyone could have mental illness. Socializing with BPD is interesting because most of us tend to be charismatic and very good at socializing on the surface. It's gotten us a lot of stigma in the past, being called manipulative chameleons. We tend to be more fluid in terms of how we present ourselves. It comes a lot from our unstable self-image or a sense of identity, but also probably a lot to do with trauma and our fear of rejection, our fear of abandonment, our fear of people leaving or not liking us or not welcoming us. It's probably all tied together. So for us, a lot of the time, it is a defense mechanism to behave in a way that we see other people behaving around us. So in some regards, we're very good at socializing, but we're very bad at connections. And it sucks, you know, especially with a partner when you're romantically involved with someone, because it's not about them. All these things that you're afraid of have nothing to do with them. It could be anyone that's in that position, and you'd be afraid of the same things, because it's not about you thinking they're the kind of person who would do that to you. It's about you thinking you're the kind of person that would happen to. But I do, like, BPD is, of all mental illness, I feel like it's the most stigmatized, especially by healthcare professionals. It comes from the belief that we're manipulative. It comes from the belief that we're resistant to treatment, that we can't get better, that there is no cure for it, that we're just, I mean, I've heard some awful things. I've had one doctor tell me that she didn't think I really had BPD because she didn't get a dead feeling inside when I was in the room with her. But I've heard healthcare professionals who didn't know I was diagnosed with BPD say things like, well, at least you're not one of those borderlines. When in fact I am one of those borderlines. It is a highly stigmatized illness, and I think when you're a man, you know, there is that idea that, I don't know whether, like, depending on who it is, if it's an older man treating you, you know, there is that man up, toxic masculinity component to it. And with guys too, it's if we're not exploding, if we're not putting other people at risk, if we're not in immediate jeopardy or somebody else is in immediate jeopardy, it does feel like we're kind of overlooked or disregarded. A lot of people think because I have insight, self-awareness, because I understand what, from a, you know, theoretical model of mental illness. I know what's happening to me. From a practical sense, I have no fucking idea what to do, you know. But because I can talk about it and I can communicate well, and I don't fit the model of, you know, Angelina Jolie in a psych ward, you know, I'm not taken seriously. I've spent my whole life speaking like, or feeling like I speak a different language than other people, and music is the one language that we all speak natively. You know, everybody. And it's also kind of a weird safe place because all these things that are stigmatized in social life are actually celebrated in music. I can talk about addiction and mental illness. I can talk about how crappy of a person I am. I can talk about the struggles I go through and my emotions, and it's music, so it's okay. But if I want to sit, especially as a man, and talk about my feelings and talk about my experiences and cry, and that's not accepted the same way. But in music it is. For somebody with such an unstable identity, such as I've had my whole life, you know, the one constant I've always been able to do, no matter how it manifests, is music has been the one way I can say what I need to say and validate my own experiences. Hi, I'm Chadwick Green. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm diagnosed borderline personality disorder with ADHD, musician and a writer, photographer, artist, recovering addict, big old mess of a human.
Even my shadow won't follow me when the night tries to break me, my will starts to bend. This pain that I'm feeling, I've dealt out in kind. I've got blood on my heart, and it ain't mine. And even my shadow won't follow me when the night tries to break me and my will starts to bend. This pain that I'm feeling, I've dealt out in kind. I've got blood on my heart, and it ain't mine. I've got blood on my heart, and it ain't mine.